Today, we're diving into one of the most chilling ghost stories from a true master of Bengali literature, Bibhuti Bandyopadhyay. His story is called Abhishapto, which means the cursed, and trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why. We're about to uncover a 300-year-old mystery whose whispers you can supposedly still hear today. So, I want you to picture this. You're on a boat, all by yourself, drifting through the wild, dense jungles near the Sundarbans. It's late. There's no moon. All you can see is the pitch-black silhouette of the forest against the sky, and all you can hear is the water lapping against your boat. It is the perfect setup for something truly strange to happen. And then you hear it, coming from deep inside that dark jungle. There's this strange, sorrowful sound. At first, you think it has to be a gramophone, which, makes zero sense out here in the middle of nowhere. But as you listen closer, you realize it's not music at all. It's the sound of people, multiple voices, all crying out together in pain. The boatman, who is fast asleep, he shoots right up, and he's terrified. He tells the narrator that all the local boatmen know this sound, and they absolutely avoid this part of the river after dark. He says they're near the old ruins of Kirtipasha's fort, a place with a very, very dark past. This isn't just some weird noise, it's a known phenomenon, and it's one that everybody fears. So to figure out what's going on with those cries, we have to go back in time. Way back. About 300 years. The narrator's companion starts telling him this old legend, from an era when powerful feudal lords, called zamindars, basically ruled this land from their forts along the river. All right, so here are the main players in our story. First, you've got Kirtimoy. He's the lord of the fort, and he is a notoriously cruel and power-hungry guy. Then we have Naran Narayan Roy, a young, well-respected zamindar from the next territory over. Naran Narayan gets an invitation to the fort, thinking he's just going to visit his good friend, who happens to be Kirtimoy's son. And at first, the visit is actually fun. Narayan is great friends with the son, Chanchal, but it's Chanchal's wife, Lakshmi Devi, who really makes an impression. She's full of life, a little mischievous, and she just loves to play pranks on the very serious Narayan. Hiding his turban, messing with his food. It almost feels like a happy family gathering. But that whole welcome, the friendship, the laughter, it was all a lie, a complete facade. Because the cruel Kirti Ray didn't care about friendship. He was looking at Narayan's lands, his wealth, his power. And this whole invitation was a trap. Yeah, that lighthearted atmosphere, it's about to be completely shattered. The laughter and the pranks are about to give way to a deadly plot, and an act of bravery so incredible, it will change the course of history for everyone involved. So, on his way home, Narayan's boat is attacked by pirates. Pirates who were hired by Kirti Ray. He's captured, dragged back to the fort, and thrown into a secret dungeon to starve to death. But Lakshmi Devi, the woman who was just playing pranks on him, she discovers her father-in-law's horrifying plan, and she decides she won't let it happen. She risks everything, bribes the guards, and leads Narayan out through a secret tunnel to freedom. As they're escaping, Narayan is just overcome with gratitude. He tells her, "You are like the sister I lost." And right there, in that moment, she asks him to make a promise. She says, "Promise me you won't seek revenge on my father-in-law." And for her sake, he agrees. He vows that as long as she is alive, he will not harm Kirti Ray. But you can't defy a tyrant like Kirti Ray and just walk away. An act of betrayal that big, especially from within his own family, well, it couldn't go unpunished. Lakshmi Devi's courage was about to cost her everything. When Kirti Ray found out what she had done, his rage was unimaginable. In an act of pure, monstrous cruelty, he ordered that very same escape tunnel to be sealed shut, at both ends, trapping his own daughter-in-law inside to suffocate alone in the dark. When news of her horrific murder finally reached Narayan, that promise he made, it was null and void. She was no longer alive. And in an instant, his vow of peace turned into an all-consuming need for pure, absolute vengeance. So, Narayan's grief, it didn't just sit there. It turned into pure, focused rage. He gathered his forces for a full-scale war. He wasn't just going to defeat Kirtipasha. He was going to wipe it off the face of the earth. And he didn't come alone. He made an alliance with the infamous Portuguese pirate Sebastião Gonzalez, a man even Curti Rey was afraid of. This was a common move back then, turning local fights into massive naval battles. And together, they came at the fort with a huge fleet of 40 ships. The attack was swift, and it was brutal. They completely surprised Curti Rey, blocking off the river so none of his ships could escape. Cannon fire just rained down on the fort. The walls started to crack, then crumble. It was over. Victory was just a matter of time. But just as his revenge was about to reach its peak, something stopped him. He saw Lakshmi Devi's face in his mind. He remembered her kindness. And in her memory, even as he was about to destroy her murderer, he gave one last order. Curti Rey's family, the innocents in all this, they were not to be harmed. So when Naranarayan's soldiers finally broke through the gates and stormed the fort, they found something really strange. The entire place was empty, deserted. There wasn't a single person inside. And that became the new mystery, right? How does an entire family, with all of their gold and jewels, just vanish from a fort that's been completely surrounded by an enemy army? There was no way out. So, where did they go? The search went on for days, and then, finally, they found a single servant from the fort, mortally wounded. And just before he died, he managed to whisper the horrifying truth of what really happened to Curti Rey and his entire family. He told them about something called a Gupta Griha, a secret underground chamber, a panic room. Curti Rey, thinking his fort would hold, had moved his entire family and all his treasure down there to wait out the attack. But the chamber had one fatal flaw. It could only be opened from the outside. And that dying servant they found? He was the only person on Earth who knew where the hidden entrance to that chamber was. And with his last breath, the secret died with him. Curti Rey's ultimate safe haven had just become his family's tomb. They were trapped, alive, deep under the ground. And that brings us right back to our narrator on his boat, listening to that awful sound in the middle of the night. That 300-year-old story of betrayal, revenge, and a terrible, terrible fate. It provides the only chilling explanation there is. So, what are those mournful sounds coming from the jungle? Is it just the wind blowing through the trees? Or could it be the 300-year-old echoes of a family, entombed alive, their desperate cries still reaching out from a grave that no one will ever find?